What should happen to a wife who kills her husband after enduring years of abuse from him? That's the question facing the Immigration Minister tonight after receiving a plea from Western Australian prisoner Dr Chamari Lianagay. The Sri Lankan-born doctor bludgeoned her violent husband to death in Geraldton in 2014. She was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years jail. She's now eligible for parole but faces deportation when she's released because her jail term forced the immediate cancellation of her Australian visa. Lauren Day reports.
She has a friendliness for everyone. Anyone who can walk in, she'll just greet them with open arms, always loving hugs and kisses and beautiful big heart, you could say, for everybody that comes in.
Charmaine Trezona and Di Budge are reminiscing about their good friend Chamari Lianagay.
And that one there was the first time she stepped foot in the beach. Yeah.
The woman they knew as quiet, caring and compassionate is behind bars for bludgeoning her husband, Dinendra Athukarala, to death. Ms Trezona was one of the first people who visited Dr Lianagay in prison after her arrest.
She just hugged me, and as she was hugging me, she actually said to me, "I feel I'm free as a bird. I can just fly away and not have worries behind my back anymore." And it was just like we just hugged and cried for the whole 10 minutes. We didn't say anything else after that.
How much did you know about what was going on behind closed doors?
Well, not really much at all, because she used to never really come openly out to us to say, "Hey, I need help, this is what's happening."
The woman her friends saw was a successful immigrant in a loving marriage. She'd come to Australia as a doctor in 2011 and become a permanent resident in 2013.
She did have a double life, as it were, in that on the one hand she was a very well respected, intelligent medical practitioner who worked extremely hard on behalf of patients, often in life-saving roles in hospitals and the like. But on the other hand, she was part of a very violent and abusive and manipulative relationship.
Embedded in the community of Geraldton, it was in her home that Dr Lianagay came to feel more trapped than she later would in prison.
There was intimidation, coercion and control, emotional abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse, forced sexual behaviour with her husband and with others at his insistence, and basically a pattern of abuse and violence which was of the worst kind that you could ever come across.
The thing that caused the biggest shame was he used to wake her in the early hours for his Skype sessions. These websites where they exchange videos, porn videos, and he used to trade videos of her with whatever it was he was looking at the time. Yeah. He was into kiddie porn.
During Dr Lianagay's murder trial, evidence emerged that her husband had collected and encrypted 13 terabytes of child exploitation and bestiality images, and had a history of beating his wife.
She used to come to work, even in the hot weather, in long sleeves and high necklines, so bruises and marks wouldn't show.
Justice Stephen Hall later described him as a manipulative and merciless abuser. In the months leading up to Dr Athukarala's death, Dr Lianagay said her husband's behaviour escalated and she was in a constant state of panic and anxiety. One night in June 2014, she acted.
It's alleged that she went to a cupboard, got a hammer, came back, and while he was on the bed, struck him to the head a couple of times and killed him. She says she has absolutely no memory of that, and her first memory is standing over her husband who had blood all over him, and she rang 000, and she still doesn't have a memory.
So why didn't she just leave?
This man was a violent man. He threatened to do her harm. He threatened to kill her nieces and nephew over in Sri Lanka and hurt her family, and she believed that he was capable of it.
Right, so all this here is all her own handiwork. And
So
she's
her
done...
artistic side's really come out since she's been in prison.
Oh, yes, yes.
She absolutely loves artwork, doesn't she? Yeah. Yes.
Ms Trezona has been visiting Dr Lianagay in prison weekly since her arrest. From behind bars, she's written of her remorse about what she did.
I take full responsibility for my actions and am greatly sorry for what happened to Dinendra. I genuinely apologise to his family, my family, and both the Australian and Sri Lankan communities who's affected by my actions.
In February, she was sentenced to 4 years jail for manslaughter, eligible for parole after 2. If she gets parole, Dr Lianagay is likely to be sent back to Sri Lanka, under rules whereby anyone with a sentence greater than 12 months faces deportation.
She's horrified about that because she's frightened about what might happen to her over there in terms of retribution and revenge.
She's appealed to the Immigration Minister Peter Dutton to let her stay.
I strongly believe there is very little or no chance of me reoffending. I would also like you to consider my personal circumstances leading to the offence. I was a victim of a long-term abusive and violent relationship, and I believe that my judgment had been affected and considerably impaired at the time.
Immigration Minister Peter Dutton declined to comment for this story because Dr Lianagay's request is still under review.
The threat of deportation is our greatest fear because it would be to a very uncertain future if she went back there.
As they wait to learn her fate, Dr Lianagay's friends are preparing a place for her to stay on the outside, complete with pictures she painted on the inside.
She wasn't an illegal immigrant in the first place. She was welcomed to Australia as a qualified professional, and the events as they unfolded since her arrival have been outside of her control. And she's already suffered enough and she's already paid the penalty. Why would they even consider sending her back to Sri Lanka where it could start all over again?
I mean, we can understand that, you know, the Australian community does need to be protected from violent offenders. But I think that's very different from the case where a woman who's been in enormously violent and abusive relationship finally snaps. I think that's a different situation, and that's what she's really saying to the minister.